Godspeed, you Black Emperor. Oh, I guess I should... whatever, I'm already sitting down. Hello, I'm Notes, and we have a new release from the Montreal ambient noise post-rock group Godspeed, you Black Emperor. These guys have been around for almost 2 decades and really defined this relatively new approach of making music, especially rock music, stripping away the conventional ways of doing things. There's no lyrics, and when there is any kind of language on this album, it's all spoken word. Sometimes it's poetry, sometimes it's poetic. Most of the time it's more of like an interview kind of a session. Their whole style for me is more organic. It's as though you're walking through a musical landscape of such, trying to find the actual song that's buried deep beneath this. And these guys do it very, very well. But the band took a pretty big hiatus back in the 2000s and re-emerged a few years ago in 2012 with their Alleluia, Don't Bend, Ascend album, where we saw a little bit more structure from the band and less wandering around. It was more to the point. We still got those songs that were well over the 20-minute mark, so it made this guy really happy. And they're back again, this time with Asunder, Sweet and Other Distress. The sound from Asunder is still very Godspeed, with the booming, monstrous guitars overlaid with so much distortion, and that distorted violin with their own distortions everywhere. It's really hard to almost pinpoint where an actual key is. They're always blended together in a symphony of sound. Like Ascend, these guys have tightened up their music and their playing, and definitely found a lot more focus on this particular album. The album feels much more like one complete piece of music, almost like a 40-minute long song. Yes, the whole album clocks in at just about 40 minutes, so it's one of the shortest the band has put out to date. So even though there's only 4 songs on this album, there's really only 3 movements on the album as a whole. You've got the beginning piece, you've got the middle section, and then you have the end piece. And the album is bookend with those 2 pieces, the beginning and the end, which are much more realized and much more controlled. In fact, there's really no build up to that first riff. It just shoves it right in your face, right off the get-go. There's no build up, you're just in it. So the beginning section only really lasts for about 10 minutes of the 40-minute piece before we enter into the middle section, and that's where the song just falls apart. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, this is where Godspeed really shines, where it's just you're in this infinite territory and you're moving around, and this is why I love Godspeed. And I just love how all the players on this album are almost looking for a tune to play. Each instrument kind of picking up something and examining it for a little bit, and having other instruments kind of affirm or push back on it. Discovering just so much different kinds of sounds and different kinds of instrumentation, and this is where Godspeed just has a lot of fun. Even though I love this falling apart and wandering around in all the different sections, it would really be nothing without finding that perfect area to kind of like plant your flag down and just letting that music wash over you, really discovering that area. And this moves into the last section, the final part of the album. So you're wandering around the chaos. All the sounds and all the noises are just insane and intense when a lonely beat kind of comes out onto the horizon. With that inertia of the past 10 minutes of just chaos and wandering around, it kind of pushes you through that beat for the first couple of minutes before we really get into that ending piece. And this is something that the band does really well, that kind of inertia, that push to keep you through it. This is no exception for this particular album, and is really kind of what makes it shine almost. That dichotomy, that contrast between that complete chaos and wandering around and that more structured and more realized ending. And once we kind of shuffle through and get our feet onto that ground, finally that last 10 minutes is where this band really shines, especially now. It was very, very breathtaking. It sets you up in almost like a deep trance, and it's hard, literally hard, not to enjoy this. There were many parts during the first movement of this album, as well as near the ending, where the band could have just kind of let things fall apart again and explore different kind of soundscapes and different kinds of sounds, but they hold it together and really maintain it in the song, and they keep it tight and they keep it contained. And it was kind of a bold move for the band, especially with a fan base that really loves that just chaos all over the place. Unlike past albums with Godspeed's repertoire, where these independent players would come together and kind of put together that final piece, this one feels as though they followed one another to the ending. Now there are a little bit of complaints on this album that I have heard from others. It's not as heavenly that past efforts have had. I've heard people say that it's not quite as apocalyptic or world-ending as other ones, and it's not unfounded. There isn't quite as much passion being played in those chaotic pieces, or even when everything is finally coming back together. It doesn't seem like, yes, we're celebrating life or the doom of all is coming. It's more of a reflection on it as opposed to being right in the moment. I kind of like the new approach. So the new album is a definite major hit for me, and I know I'll be listening to this one for quite a while, like all of their other stuff. It's definitely a nice counterpiece to 2012's Ascend, and a great addition to the band's library. So that's it for Asunder, Sweet and Other Distresses by Godspeed You, Black Emperor. What did you guys think about it, those that have listened to it? Did you love this kind of new stuff? Did you not like it? Let me know down below. And also tell me about your favorite song or piece that reminded you of that abstract painting. That kind of song that just kind of says screw you to the conventional writing of music that's just more free-flowing. I know for me, one of my favorites is Saucerful of Secrets. And that's it. Notes out.